So anyone who that has owned TD Bank stock over the last little while, I'm sure you've heard that they've run into some regulatory issues. They were fined recently by FINRA, governing body here in Canada, $9.2 million for not going by or not having the best anti-money laundering or not following the anti-money laundering laws. And we know all banks follow the laws, but there have been things that have slipped through the cracks, most recently at TD Bank. And unfortunately, things have happened where now the regulators in the United States are looking at TD Bank in the US as well. There was a drug money laundering event that went through in the United States, in New York State, and went through TD Bank. We've heard, not sure if this is true or not, it went as far as actually bribing some of the TD Bank employees to get this money through, to get the money laundering through. And right now there's an investigation going on. The hope is that this investigation won't take too long to get the results of. But TD Bank shareholders, people that work at the bank, and really individual investors in general in Canada are a little concerned because TD Bank, when you think about the stock, it's such a large company. It's one of the largest companies in the country, in Canada. It's second largest bank in our country. So like we saw, for example, back in the days of Nortel, when Nortel sold off, TD Bank is in so many mutual funds like Nortel. Now, I'm not going to say it's another Nortel because we know what happened to Nortel. And I do not believe, and I stress, do not believe TD Bank will go the same way as Nortel went. But we could see some pretty big fines charged to TD Bank. Some people are talking about as much as maybe $2 billion in fines. They also might be put into the penalty box and not allowed to do any deals in the United States, which would be very troubling for the bank. As we know, TD Bank has made a number of deals. They actually have more branches in the United States than they have in Canada at this point in time. So depending on what happens with this investigation into money laundering in the United States, we could see TD Bank stock affected. Now, if you're a shareholder, what should you do? Well, I'm a shareholder and I have done nothing as yet. In fact, for those that are looking to buy a name like TD Bank slightly cheaper, because when this announcement about what was going on came out, stock fell about 12%. You could have picked up TD Bank on the cheap. Yields for their dividend actually shot up to about 5.6% for TD Bank stock. I think their dividend is secure. I'm not worried about that. So I thought that when this news came out, and I still think that based on what's going on, that TD could be an opportunity to buy a good quality name at cheaper levels. So as an investor, if you own it, I probably would recommend you continue to hold it, see how everything plays out. Perhaps if things get worse for TD, you could see the stock falling more. So if you want to play it on the safe side, maybe you want to wait before you buy the shares. For those that want to get in thinking that maybe some good will, or at least not the worst case scenario will happen, maybe you buy TD Bank in front of the announcement. So a lot of different ways to invest at this time in TD Bank. But in my opinion, I think it's still a good name. It's a good name to own. I've already been a buyer for some investors recently after the news came out, buying the stock on the cheap. And I will look to continue to buy for those investors that can handle this volatility going forward.